You are listening to provetext, a GlossaHouse podcast exploring scripture with Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb and Dr. Fredrick J. Long. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to provetext. I'm Michael Halcomb here with Fred Long, and this is a Grammar Point episode. We're continuing to talk about verbs. I think this is part 12 on verbs, Fred. And on the docket today, we have the pluperfect. And the term for that in Koine is hypersyndelikos chronos. That's a tough one to say. Hypersyndelikos, like telikos. Hypersyndelikos chronos. I believe that's right.
Wow. Yeah, it'd be great. What is it? Can you pull apart what that means? There's the word teleos in there, like end. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, so telikos, right, is having the character of being finished or complete.
Yeah.
And soon is obviously like, so with completeness, and then hyper is where we get our word hyper, above, like over or above, right? So this is beyond the finished tense, right? So it's a way of capitalizing on the perfect, right? In other words,
yeah, which is a perfect.
It's the more than finished or more than perfect tense,
which is perfectly fitting, pun intended, for us to understand the pluperfect.
Well, the Latin gets at it, right? Pluperfect is like that plus perfect, right? It's the same idea, beyond the perfect. So anyways, I ruined your joke there, but yeah. So
no,
actually that was a beyond perfect segue.
Perfect segue to continue.
Or beyond perfect.
Well, so the
segue.
pluperfect the pluperfect takes what the perfect does and put it into past time. So remember that the perfect is that something's happened with continued results up to and including the present time. And the pluperfect takes all of that and puts it into past time, so that something happened, had ongoing results for a time, those results ended. And this is in the past time.
Stop shy of the present.
So that's what the
they stop shy of the present.
It stops shy of the present. Yeah. So the pluperfect, to help mark that past timeness that puts it into the past, it's formed with an augment added to the reduplication. And last time we talked about the perfect tense, we talked about the reduplication. So it adds an augment to the reduplication onto the verb stem. And then you have the pluperfect active endings, which are formed in the fourth principal part with a kappa, and then the endings epsilon, iota. So keen, kis, ki, kimen, kita, kisan. And then the middle passive are formed by taking the imperfect middle passive endings, omein, u, ito, ometha, esthe, onto, removing that coupling vowel, that omicron or epsilon, removing that. And so then you have just the raw ending, main, so, to, metha, sthe, nto. And so these raw endings are abutted to the verb stem. And again, because you have some of these consonants abutting with other consonants, you have some stem changing taking place. And so the pluperfect middle passive is formed actually in the fifth principal part alongside the perfect middle passive indicative. Yeah, so one example is found. By the way, the pluperfect only occurs 86 times. So we're talking at low frequency. One of the occurrences is in Acts 4:22. For the man was more than 40 years old on whom this miracle of healing had been performed. So it had been performed. So the miracle had already happened, and the result was there. He was healed. It's into the past. So this is a pluperfect. Another instance would be Acts 7:44. Moses So our fathers had the tabernacle of testimony in the wilderness, just as he who spoke to Moses directed him to make it according to the pattern which he had seen. He had seen that pattern. So this is talking about something that has already occurred in the past. Moses had this vision. He had seen it. It was written down, and it impacted the creation of the temple, the tabernacle. And so that it had ongoing results up to and to that point. And now it's being talked about from the perspective of the present, looking back at the past. And so the pluperfect is used there to describe that, the pattern which he
Yeah.
had seen. Yep. So
I mean,
that's the
it's
pluperfect.
once you start like talking about it from a grammatical perspective, it seems so like hefty and heavy and like dense, but English speakers
Really?
do this all the time, don't you think? Like, I mean, like native English speakers will use all these tenses: perfect, imperfect, future, aorist, perfect, pluperfect. Like they'll do it all the time. They just don't realize they're doing it.
Oh yeah, past progressive, present progressive. He ate,
Yeah,
he was eating, he has eaten, he had eaten. We can go on and on.
yeah,
I mean, wasn't your master's work in linguistics, computational linguistics, didn't you work out the Ethiopian Amharic verb
yeah,
system?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you sat down
yeah. I
with
wrote it.
Fasil and this
Yeah,
this friend of ours, Ethiopian friend, and Michael and he just kind of worked out the verb system, and you somehow put it into
yeah,
a program to take a basic
yeah,
form and then work it out. And you said, I think if I remember correctly, that Fasil was like learning about his own language because he'd never thought
yeah,
about
yeah,
it in that systematic way. And I
yeah,
think the same is true with English. Like, we do all this stuff, and if you think about it, though, you actually do all these complex things. So when you're learning
yeah,
Greek, it's just a matter of understanding some of the meta language and to describe what you already know and do.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep, yep. Well, our six tenses are done, so we have real quick just to recap: the present tense, en estos chronos; the future tense, melon chronos; the imperfect tense, paratatikos chronos; the aorist tense, aoristos chronos; the perfect tense, parakimenos chronos; and the pluperfect tense, hypersyndelikos chronos. So there's our six tenses. I guess I'm not surprised I remember all those, but yeah, on the fly, not too
Yeah,
bad.
good job. That's impressive. I do want to have one more episode though. We can consider it a bonus, but we need to finish the sixth principal part, the tense formation
Mm,
there. And there's some dispute
right.
whether there is such thing as a passive formation, but it is formed distinctly. But whether it has passive meaning or not
Right.
inherently, that's debated. So after this
Yeah.
episode, stay tuned because we're going to cover the sixth principal part: future passive and aorist passive.
All right.
Thanks.
Hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? GlossaHouse can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, GlossaHouse offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. GlossaHouse, language resources for the global community.